Here I am, back in Albany, Oregon. I was actually here just 48 hours ago. I took a bus up to Portland, and today I'm going to take a train down to Eugene. Leaves in about half an hour. As I mentioned, I am heading out pretty soon, and so there's a couple things I kind of want to get off of my bucket list for my time in Oregon, and today is one of them, and I'm hoping it will work out. There's kind of a tight schedule for it. I do have a plan B if it doesn't work out, but right now it looks like the train is on time. One other thing, I don't know if this is apparent in the video, but I can see it and I can kind of smell it. There is smoke in the air, a little bit of a haze, and I'll actually be heading closer to that fire, and I hope that doesn't become a factor. But it is a thing. It's summer in Oregon. It's actually the last full day of summer. So let's see how that works. I hear a train coming, and I assume that's my train. But there's always a little bit of anxiety, and every minute that goes by, even when it's supposed to be on time, I just get a little bit worried. But that certainly looks like that is an Amtrak Cascades coming in. And I've shown this very shot before of it coming in, so I'm gonna put down my camera and get ready to board that train, because it looks like I will get to my destination on time. Well, I'm on board, and we're still boarding, but we'll probably be out of here in a minute or two. And we are underway, leaving Albany. I'm gonna go to the cafe car, get some snacks. And we are making very good speed, which is good. Normally, I don't mind the trip being slow because I enjoy the trip, but in this case, I'm glad we're going fast. So we are crossing the Willamette River, and this is the border between Lynn and Lane County. So I was just thinking about this. Wednesday I took the Portland streetcar from the South Waterfront to Union Station, and that trip, including the waiting, will take about as long as this trip will between Albany and Eugene. Very quick trip today, like about as quick as like a crosstown bus in most places, 30-40 minutes. Shows the potential of the Amtrak Cascades. It's just a lot of times it's behind schedule, and then there's only a couple trains a day, but this train can really move when it wants to. So right now we're in North Eugene, and the train has slowed down. And I think that might just be normally what happens when you enter like an urban area. But every time the train slows down just a little bit, I'm like, oh no, what if everything blows up? Even though right now I have 50 minutes to get to Eugene and then get to the Eugene bus station. So I'm not really worried, but all is a little bit of nervousness. Well, we just deboarded the Cascades, and I checked my phone. We were 8 minutes early when the train came to a stop. So when I was taking this trip, I was thinking, how late could it be? Could I still run all the way to the transit center, which I've done in the past? And I was thinking, okay, if it's 15 minutes late or even 20 minutes late, yeah, I can make the run in 10 or 15 minutes. I did not think about what would happen when it got here early. So I have some extra time in Eugene, which is a perfect place to have some extra time. So we're near Cascades Square, where we've been before. I have a little bit of time, not really time to hang out though, but wow, it's kind of interesting. Like today is just about a perfect day, and I was worried. Of course, things might not stay perfect, but so far, everything from the weather to the trains has been cooperating. So now it can be revealed. I'm at the Eugene Transit Center of the Lane Transit District, Bay G, and this has the Junction City bus, which we've taken before, and the McKenzie Bridge bus. Now, the McKenzie Bridge bus is a city bus, but it actually goes like 50 miles east out into the Cascades. And it's been on my list to be able to take this bus, but you have to be very precise with the schedule, and even as it is, I'll only be able to like get off it for like half an hour. But it's something I've been waiting for a while, so I hope that it continues to work. As you can see from here, the bus leaves from here 4 times a day, and it takes an hour and a half to get to its final point, which is actually pretty quick because it's going like 50, 60 miles, I believe. So that's why I have to be very precise about this trip. This is the 91 bus. I'm waiting for it to get started in a couple minutes. And we are off. And for, I think, the first 20 or so minutes, we're just going to be in Eugene and Springfield or thereabouts, so there won't be anything too interesting for a while. There's the Peter DeFazio Bridge. We've been there before. And right now we are crossing over the Willamette River. Somewhere in Springfield. This is Highway 126. This is actually the highway that we'll be following all the way, but it will look different than this. So this is Thurston Station. It's a park and ride and a bus shelter. This is in Springfield, but it's east of where we were last time, and I think this is the last stop that's in Eugene, Springfield, and past here we're going to quickly move out of the urban area, whatever that means. I guess we'll find out if that's true. It's a few minutes and a few miles later, and as you can see, even though there's still houses and stuff, we've left the city. We're not in the middle of a national forest or anything, but we're in either a rural area or a very low-density suburban area, depending on how you look on it. And this will go on for a while. And I believe those are hazelnuts. So we're passing through an agricultural area, which makes sense, the McKenzie River Valley. And there you can see the McKenzie River. We actually crossed over it earlier and I didn't have my camera out. So this is the McKenzie, one of the major tributaries of the Willamette River. And glacier fed at some points, or snowfield fed. Here, late in September, it's pretty low probably, and we're going to and from it, and now we're from it. So that's a Leeburg store. We're in Leeburg, and one thing I've noticed, and it's kind of been a little bit of a surprise, is that like going through this valley, it's just been kind of continuous, and I thought maybe it would be empty and then little cities in between. But really it's just been kind of continuous rural areas with some housing, and I think that might end as we get closer to the mountains, where this farmland will turn into national forest. But I don't know, I guess I'm going to find out. In this direction. And indeed, we're just a mile or two east of Leeburg. In a couple minutes, and you can see the farmland and the fields have kind of been replaced with deeper trees, so we're kind of entering into the forest, and the road is going noticeably upward. And I didn't know that was there, and I'm curious to know the story, especially because that looks like an older structure. So looks like here we have some type of reservoir. I don't believe that's one of the main Willamette Valley Project reservoirs, but I could be wrong about that. It's not gigantic, but it is substantial. If you look at those houses over there, I imagine those are nice vacation homes. They look expensive, and that also looks nice. Even though there's not a lot of land, there is still agriculture here in a pretty narrow valley. It reminds me of Chile. And one thing about that, if those look like those are hazelnuts, and hazelnuts, you don't need a lot of space to grow them, but you do need a lot of effort, and they are a high value crop, so you can grow them even where you don't have a lot of land. As you can see here, the valley is gone. Like, it's here, the river, and then the hills. So we are in Blue River, and in a minute I am hopping off the bus. So I just got off of the 91 bus. It is continuing east to McKenzie Bridge Ranger Station. And the reason I didn't want to do that is that would give me literally 5 minutes while it turned around. And so this gives me 40 minutes here, which is not really a long time, but it's enough to see what's going on. One thing I noticed all the way here is there was a lot of dead trees, and you can see these trees here are dead. Some of them are alive, but there are a lot of dead trees. I imagine that has to do with fire damage. There was a lot of fires here, including up until a few weeks ago, which is why I came here when I did. And Blue River in this direction is in this direction. I'm going to go and I'm going to see what is in Blue River. Now there's a library in this direction. And this is a place where I did not know what this looked like on Google Maps. And I was assuming there would be more of a town here. And there is a settlement, but there's really not a lot that looks like a town, even though there is an alleged library, maybe in this red building. I hope I'm not trespassing, but there was a sign. I guess we will find out. I do not see a library here. I hope it did not burn down. And there's also supposed to be a post office, so I will go and see what is there. It's interesting right now. I'm kind of mentally trying to parse where I am. We have a bus stop. We have a Eugene Weekly kiosk. We have what looks like the foundations of a city, but things are scattered. And I am actually wondering, did this town burn down and is it being rebuilt? Is that why there's a phoenix there? And you would think I would have researched that. Wow, a lot of things to think about and learn. But yeah, as it is, I'm kind of trying to parse where I am. Is this a town? So I talked to a man and he did confirm, yeah, this town burnt down. That is why that sculpture is there. A lot of natural disasters in Oregon recently, and it's easy in the Willamette Valley where we get smoke. That's all we know. Well, we know more than that, but there have been towns like this, small towns, but towns still, that have been basically obliterated. Some more than others. There's still some buildings standing, and he said they're trying to rebuild the town, and I hope that does happen. So I'm going to go to the post office, and I'm going to see the river, and I only have a half hour here, so I'm making the best use of my time, I hope. There is a U.S. post office here. This might have actually been rebuilt. You know, they can just move a modular building in. Very basic, but the post office will be everywhere. The lobby is open. One thing that's interesting to me, earlier we saw some large houses going in, and compare that to what we have here, which are more modest homes, obviously. And part of that is that this is burnt down, but in a lot of places in Oregon, you have two trends with smaller cities where the natural resource base is fading, so the town is going away because of that, and then it's getting rebuilt because of tourism. And along here, you really see both those trends where a lot of these smaller towns are trying to struggle, but then on the other hand, you do have big luxury homes going in. And there's obviously a lot to say about that, and I'm not going to say it, I'm just going to make that observation that those two trends are going on, and it's kind of makes for some uneven development, really obviously, I say as I walk along this gravel road. More positively, as we walk along this bridge, we're going to cross the Blue River. And I've lived in Oregon a long time, so I've seen a lot of beautiful rivers, but coming up here, I was really amazed at how beautiful the McKenzie is and how beautiful this is. And also, like, maybe not as apparent here, but like there was times with the McKenzie where it was really blue. And so that's how this got the name Blue River. And there is supposed to be a little path right up there is where the Blue and the McKenzie meet. I don't know if we'll go that far. We only have like 20 more minutes, but we will see. So this road might lead down to the river. One thing to mention, obviously today where I only have this 40 minutes, not the most ideal way to visit, but for people who live in Eugene who are taking a train from Albany, you know, people in Eugene could come up here and spend a lot of time here. and do that every day on a city bus. And I did want to mention one thing as we look at this. This is something that sometimes causes arguments or misunderstandings because we have just different definitions in the Pacific Northwest. I was looking at it, and Lane County, which is where Eugene is and also where this is, it's about 5,000 square miles. It's about 90% the size of Connecticut and 80% the size of Slovenia, if those comparisons help. And so if there's a lot of money there. The university, it tends to be affluent. And some of that money gets spent on things like buses to more rural areas. But the fact there's only service 4 times a day here, we really put that in comparison to, this is a community of a few hundred people, really out in the middle of the mountains in a pretty big area. There's 300,000 people or so, maybe more than that now, maybe closer to 400,000 people in Lane County, but it is, like I said, about the size of Connecticut. So sometimes, like, putting areas like this in context is difficult if you haven't been in an area like this. And this is still, for us, urban Oregon. This is still close to the big cities here. And I hope some of that makes sense, just to put this into better context of, like, this is a small town, it is distant, but by Oregon and Pacific Northwest standards, not too small and not too distant. Feels very summery here. We're at about 1,000 feet of elevation. So this area probably has substantially colder weather at times, but also in the summer, it can get hotter where it might be more mild on the valley floor. So it feels very summery today, and there's parts of that maybe you can see, and I wish I could capture more of the feeling of what the summer feels like. But for now, there's a short trip here. I am going to head back to the bus stop. It feels beautiful to be here. Feels really good to be here. So before I return back, this is Highway 126. Continues on to Bend. And if you wanted to, the bus goes another 15 miles, I think, to McKenzie Bridge Ranger Station in that direction. And from there, it's 24 miles and 4,000 feet elevation gain to the Pacific Crest. So it is possible, if you are feeling very, very adventurous, to take the bus and then, do some bicycling and then get on the Pacific Crest Trail. Don't know if I would recommend it, but it is possible. Thank you, firefighters. Yes, thank you, firefighters. One other thing to mention about this area, and I didn't mean to be too harsh when I was talking about, like, resorts being built here and stuff. This area is kind of underutilized as far as I can tell, especially, you have places like Bend, your Wallet, Oregon, and places on the Oregon coast where you have to, like, make reservations like 6 months in advance. The area along here, compared to a lot of places, seems to be more mild, and I guess just the secret isn't out, because hopefully from this video you saw that is some beautiful river country. So, especially if you're an adventure traveler, and especially in the Pacific Northwest, where a little bit of planning, and even from Northern California, you can come in here on the train, take an adventure vacation, camp up here. And, like I said, when I went to Glacier, going to places like this might put less pressure, even though they're not big name places, and also might make a cheaper and more restful vacation. So that's just something to think about. Right now I'm waiting for this bus, the same bus I came in on, which should be here in 2 minutes, but since it does have to go, I don't know, a dozen miles up that way and back, it could be delayed. But I'm not in a hurry as long as I get back to Eugene before my Greyhound bus leaves. The bus showed up exactly on time, and I'm going back to Eugene. So not quite as much to say on the way down, because most of what I'm seeing is stuff I've already seen and made comments on. A swift trip, even though it'll be an hour, I think, to get back. Centerville, so we are almost back to Springfield. Almost back on the highway in Springfield. I just jumped off this bus and ended right in the middle of a concert. There's a cumbia band. So they're a cumbia band, but they're from Mexico. Still very nice. And that's what part of what my transit ticket pays for. Interesting fact about the bus is, I guess mentally I thought I would be getting back late, so I got a ticket for the Flixbus that doesn't leave Eugene until 7:40. I could actually be leaving on the Greyhound or leaving on Amtrak at 6:15, but for whatever reason, I mean, I might as well spend another 2.5 hours in Eugene. And another thing is, city buses, it's not polite to eat on, so I did not eat, even though that was a 3-hour trip, about an hour and a half each way and a half hour in between, if those numbers added up. Anyway, so I am going to eat, and I'm going to see what else is in Eugene, and I'll probably put that in a separate video. Oh, I'm back in the neighborhood of the train station. I'm going to the Flixbus Greyhound bus stop, which is a block away. Was a bit further to get back here after I left the riverfront than I remembered. Be that as may, I'm still 20 minutes early, 15 minutes early, not worried. So one thing about today is, like I said, this trip was on my bucket list, things I wanted to do. And, you know, in my past 3 years that I've been here, I'm going to brag a little bit and I say I've seen more of Oregon than most Oregonians have seen in their life. Don't know if that's totally accurate, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that. But even with that, there's a lot of stuff I haven't seen. And I've actually lived here all my life, more or less, and taken so many trips. But up the McKenzie River, unless it was like on a trip with my mom when I was like 10 years old or something, where we're driving around, I don't think I've ever been east of Springfield. So there's still so much to see. And a lot of times I go to the places that are more accessible, more or less accessible. And it's easy to forget that there are places like Blue River, and I only got to go there because, for whatever reason, there is a bus that goes up the McKenzie River. So I'm heading out soon, so glad I had the chance to see this today. There's a lot more to see than I've seen so far, and hope that you've enjoyed seeing it with me as the sun sets.